Imagine being reincarnated in an awakened world, thinking of yourself as the main character, with immense power and a lot of ladies around you. But to your surprise, you are not awakened at all, and in fact, you are the weakest of them all. If this was not enough, you are branded as a traitor by everyone. And if this was not enough, your own friend poisoned you and left you to die as a traitor. As you wait for your death, you wake up once again, and this time, you are in the body of the Demon King, brimming with insane powers, capable of destroying the humanity that betrayed you. And added to that, now you have a sexy fiancé who is also the Demon Queen, along with a sexy mistress who are ready to do anything you want to them. The story begins by revealing how the ordinary world can collapse in an instant. One day, a rift appeared in the sky, unleashing monstrous beings from another world, Mostro. With no means to close the rift, humanity found itself helpless as the Mostro wreaked havoc without restraint. Even the military was powerless against them, plunging the world into an era of despair. However, just when all hope seemed lost, the awakened ones emerged, individuals with extraordinary abilities who became the last line of defense against these calamities. People hailed them as heroes. The scene shifts to a world overrun by Mostro, where chaos and destruction spread across every corner. Civilians had no choice but to flee in terror. Among them, a frightened woman sat clutching her baby, desperately hoping for a miracle. A towering Mostro soon locked its gaze on her, ready to strike. But before it could move, a warrior stepped forward, gripping a sword in his hands. Without hesitation, he positioned himself between the woman and the creature, urging her to escape while he held the monster back. As the battle began, the monstrous being attacked fiercely. The warrior blocked the strike with his sword, giving the woman just enough time to flee with her child. But the Mostro was relentless. Using its powerful wings, it sent the warrior flying backward, slamming him hard against a stone wall. Blood trickled from his mouth as he struggled to regain his focus. Before he could react, the creature lunged toward him, ready to land a fatal blow. Just then, another warrior descended from above, striking with precision. His blade sliced through the creature's neck in a single, decisive motion, ending its rampage instantly. The battlefield remained engulfed in chaos, with many Mostro still present. But the heroes fought fiercely, each unleashing their unique powers. One warrior ripped a monster's heart straight from its chest, while another used his fire abilities to engulf the creatures in flames, reducing them to ashes. Together, the heroes overcame the monstrous invasion, eliminating every last threat. The remaining survivors, who had watched in terror, now erupted in cheers. Relief and gratitude filled the air as they celebrated the victory. Among them, the woman and her child stood in awe, their fear replaced by admiration. With heartfelt gratitude, they silently thanked the heroes who had saved them from certain doom. As the dust settled from the battle, the heroes who had saved humanity from destruction were introduced. Leading them was Kanda Yu, the youngest commander in the history of heroes. An esper with formidable lightning abilities, he was hailed as the star of hope for humanity, known for his unmatched strength. Beside him stood Riku Darren, the deputy commander. Though young, he possessed overwhelming power and remained calm in any situation. As Kanda Yu's right-hand man, he was a figure of reliability. Then came Sakuma Retsu, an esper with fire abilities. His rough personality matched his aggressive combat style, making him the ace of the assault squad. As the heroes stood together, the weak warrior, who had nearly been killed by the Mostro, watched from behind the crowd. A determination grew in his heart as he silently vowed to one day attain the same level of strength. With the battle over, peace returned to the area. The injured were taken for medical treatment. The weak warrior soon found himself in the care of Shiraishi Chiyo, a healer. As she handed him an antidote, She warned him about the dangers of the winged tribe's poison. Even exposure to their vapors could be lethal. He thanked her but was suddenly overcome with a violent cough, questioning his own recklessness in attacking the Mostro despite being so powerless. Just then, two heroes approached him with disdain. They mocked his actions, calling him a fool for wasting their time. To them, someone as weak as him being considered a hero was nothing short of a disgrace. Retsu, smirking, reminded him of the label he carried, the traitor's son. The insult hit hard, and in anger the weak warrior shot back, insisting that his father was not a traitor. Without hesitation, Retsu struck him with a fierce kick, sending him tumbling to the ground. He then coldly recounted the past, how the warrior's father, despite being the commander of the heroes, had abandoned his wounded comrades and crossed into the other world. If that wasn't treason, then what was? The warrior had no response. His eyes filled with tears as he protested, insisting that his father would never betray humanity. Retsu stepped forward, pressing his foot onto the young warrior's chest, forcing him down. The warrior, now seething with anger, glared at him. Amused by his defiance, Retsu laughed and taunted him, daring him to fight back. Removing his foot, he issued a challenge, offering the warrior a chance to prove himself. He claimed he would defeat him with just a single finger. Summoning all his strength, the warrior lunged at Retsu, aiming a punch at him. But before he could land a hit, Retsu snapped his fingers. In an instant, flames engulfed the warrior's entire body, causing him to collapse in agony. Seeing him writhe on the ground, Retsu and his companion laughed at his misery. At that moment, Chiyo rushed forward, demanding that they stop. Helping the warrior up, she scolded them, reminding them that a child shouldn't be made to suffer for the sins of their parents. The two heroes remained unimpressed, warning her that she was too soft-hearted and would eventually be deceived by him as well. Suddenly, a sharp pain surged through the warrior's chest. His entire body began trembling uncontrollably. Chiyo quickly realized the cause. It was the winged tribe's poison. The warrior recalled his earlier encounter, realizing that he must have been poisoned at that moment. Chiyo wasted no time and prepared to administer the last remaining antidote. Before she could, Kanda Yu appeared, stopping her. With a serious expression, he warned that this was not the right time to use it. Kanda went on to instruct Chiyo to check on the collapsed child nearby. Chiyo hesitated, unwilling to leave the weakened warrior alone in such a state. But Kanda, offering a reassuring smile, assured her that everything would be fine and urged her to go. Reluctantly, she obeyed and left. The weakened warrior's condition continued to deteriorate. Struggling to speak, he begged for the antidote. But the brat had a devilish smile on his face while he looked down at him and asked if he truly wanted it. But instead of giving it to him, he remarked that the dog nearby had also been unwell for some time and that he might have been poisoned. There was only one dose of the antidote left. So who should receive it? Retsu quickly responded, stating that there was no need to hesitate. The dog, at least, was useful in battle, while the warrior was worthless. Darren laughed, mocking the warrior, telling everyone that, just moments ago, he had acted like a hero. Yet now he was willing to let the dog die for his own sake. Kanda listened to them with a smirk and noted that it seemed everyone shared the same opinion. Without another word, he uncapped the antidote bottle and casually let it fall to the ground. The warrior could only watch in shock as the liquid spilled onto the dirt. The dog sniffed at the antidote, licked it slightly, and then, to the warrior's horror, defecated on it. He was stunned, unable to believe what he was seeing. Kanda chuckled, feigning amusement. So, it wasn't poisoning after all, just an upset stomach? Fury boiled inside the warrior as he shouted at them, demanding to know why they were treating him with such cruelty. What had he ever done to deserve this? Kanda's expression turned cold. Without hesitation, he stated that the warrior was nothing but an eyesore. Placing a foot on his shoulder, he pressed down, forcing him lower. A traitor's son should crawl like a worm, yet this one dared to dream of becoming a hero? His very existence was a mistake. With that, Kanda struck him down with a brutal kick to the head, sending him crashing to the ground once more. He then coldly remarked that trash should remain trash. The warrior should have been discarded long ago, but now, if his name didn't appear on the casualty list, he would be seen as a deserter, just like his father. Satisfied, Kanda turned away. As he walked off, he ordered Retsu to seal off the area and ensure that no one approached. If anyone asked, they were to say that a Mostro was still lurking nearby. With that, the three of them left, thinking that as the nuisance is gone, they should have a party. The warrior, bruised and beaten, struggled to rise, but his body refused to obey. Once again, he collapsed, unable to do anything but lie on the cold ground. Lying battered on the ground, the warrior clenched his fists in frustration. He had risked his life to protect the citizens, so why was he being treated like this? As anger and confusion swirled in his mind, a strange presence appeared behind him. A faint red aura shimmered in the air, forming the silhouette of a woman. Turning his head weakly, he struggled to make out the figure, but his vision was too blurry from the poison. His thoughts raced. Was this a surviving Mostro? The figure stepped closer, and as she emerged from the haze, her appearance became clearer. She was stunning and undeniably alluring. But there was something unsettling about her presence. The boy's body was still weak, and he was tensed in fear. In his current state, he couldn't even handle a low-ranked Mostro. Was this how he would die, he wondered? Memories flooded his mind as he recalled his teacher's words, predicting that he would one day become a novelist after reading his Easy on his father and giving him an award. But that was never his dream. He had always wanted to be a hero, just like his father. He remembered how his father had smiled with pride upon hearing those words, knowing for sure that he is going to become a hero. Yet that happiness had been short-lived, and one day, everything changed. The shocking news came to the boy and his mother that his father had betrayed humanity and had gone to the other world. Both of them had to get out of their house because it was all confiscated by the government. But the boy refused to believe it, as it was impossible. His father wasn't a traitor, but his mother, however, had been unable to bear the weight of this accusation. Overwhelmed with grief, she had clung to him in her last breath, her tear-filled eyes pleading as she whispered her final words. She had told him to trust his father and to uncover the truth, and with those last words, she had taken her final breath. The pain of that moment reignited something inside him. He had made a promise to his mother that he wouldn't die in a place like this and find out the truth. He was the legendary Ren Haneda's son, and he cannot give up. Fueled by newfound determination, he somehow got up from the ground and grabbed a nearby iron rod, while the female monster was looking at the boy who was gripping it tightly. His body, though aching, pushed itself up. Facing the mysterious woman, he refused to back down. With unwavering resolve, he declared that he feared neither Kanda nor her. And without hesitation, he lunged forward, launching a fierce attack towards the lady. But just then, the mysterious woman extended her hand forward, unleashing a powerful attack. The force was so powerful that it sent the weakened warrior flying through the air before he crashed hard onto the ground. Pain surged through his body as he struggled to process what had just happened. His mind raced. Her strength was overwhelming. Was she an S-class? The realization sent a wave of shock through him. What was an S-class doing here? Could the intelligence have been wrong? It suddenly dawned on him. The weaklings from earlier had only been a distraction. This was the true ambush. Determined, he forced himself to stand. He needed to inform headquarters before it was too late. But before he could take another step, the woman moved with inhuman speed, appearing right in front of him. With a single strike, she knocked him unconscious, his body collapsing to the ground. Gazing down at him, she observed his frail form. Humans of lower ranks were indeed fragile, unable to withstand even a fraction of her power. Yet, despite their physical weakness, their souls held exceptional strength. Curious, she knelt beside him, extending her hand toward his unconscious body, and suddenly, the scene shifted. The warrior found himself in an unfamiliar place. A shadow loomed behind him, and a strange energy surged through his body. A powerful sensation pulsed within him, filling him with a strength he had never felt before. Then, as the boy wanted to know about where he was and what was happening to him, it was all over in an instant, and his eyes snapped open. As his vision cleared, he realized he was lying in a room, one he did not recognize. Confusion flooded his mind. Where was he? Just moments ago, he had been on the battlefield. Had he survived? What was happening outside? Pushing himself up from the bed, he glanced around, searching for someone, anyone. He had something urgent to do. But before he could call out, his gaze landed on a mirror placed nearby. What he saw left him frozen in shock. His reflection was no longer the same. His body, completely transformed. Just then, the same mysterious woman entered the room, but this time, she wasn't alone. Another woman accompanied her. Observing the warrior, the two exchanged a glance before confirming their suspicion. He had awakened, and the fusion had been a success. Before the boy could process their words, his emotions erupted. In a fit of shock and rage, he lashed out, shattering the mirror in front of him. As the broken shards scattered across the floor, he caught his own reflection in the fractured pieces. His breath hitched as the realization sank in. This was him. A sense of dread washed over him as he muttered in disbelief. He had transformed into a monstro. He was not able to comprehend about what was happening to him. His gaze then shifted toward the woman who had attacked him earlier. His mind instantly connected the dots, and the only thing he knew was that the female Mastro was the one responsible for this. Fueled by anger, he grabbed a weapon and lunged at her, his voice filled with fury as he accused her of turning him into this monstrous form. But before he could strike, the second woman reacted with blinding speed. In a flash, she leaped forward, delivering a swift kick that sent him crashing to the ground. Before he could recover, she pinned him down, pressing a blade against him. Her voice was sharp and demanding as she warned him not to approach the princess so recklessly. Upon hearing those words, he shifted his gaze toward the princess, his mind struggling to process the revelation. A princess? The princess stepped forward, addressing the warrior directly. She revealed her identity. She was the princess of the Demon Clan. Within the human military records, she was listed as a first, a title that carried significant weight. She seemed surprised that he didn't recognize her. The warrior remained silent, staring at her in shock, struggling to process what he had just heard. As he was a lowly soldier, he would not have been assigned to a high-ranking mission, so he never knew about the first or any other title in that matter. The second woman spoke up, informing him that if the princess hadn't extracted his soul, he would have died. Hearing this, the body of the boy tensed. Soul extraction? The term sent a shiver down his spine. His mind immediately recalled the information recorded by the heroes. According to official records, the Mostro were classified into 4 major types: the Demon Clan, Winged Clan, Beast Clan, and Armored Clan. The Winged Clan specialized in flight and carried deadly poison. The Beast Clan was known for its incredible speed and raw physical strength. The Armored Clan had unmatched destructive power and near impenetrable defenses. Finally, the Demon Clan, the one that most closely resembled humans, possessed abilities that were anything but ordinary. Some members of the demon clan were rumored to have powerful mental abilities, while high-ranking ones were said to have the ability to separate their bodies from their souls. However, this was merely speculation by the humans, as no one had ever witnessed such a phenomenon firsthand. Realization struck the boy like a lightning bolt as he realized that his soul had been exchanged with that of a demon clan vessel. A sinking feeling settled in his chest as he turned to the princess and asked about his original body. The princess calmly explained that the poison of the winged clan corroded flesh at an alarming rate, capable of reducing even an elephant to nothing but a pool of blood within 10 minutes, and due to it, most likely his body had already been disposed of. The mind of the boy went blank as the weight of the princess's words left him unable to comprehend what had happened. In a daze, he tried to stand, but his legs gave out beneath him, sending him crashing back to the floor. The second woman, watching his struggle, remarked that humans had developed robots specifically designed to clean up battlefields. Some drones were even equipped with flamethrowers, ensuring that nothing remained, not even ashes. Hearing this, the princess smirked and casually mused that perhaps she should acquire a few of those for herself. The princess looked at him with indifference, stating that what happened to an empty body was none of her concern. Instead, he should focus on adapting to his new form as quickly as possible. The frustration of the boy boiled over, and he snapped back, refusing to accept her authority as he was not her subordinate and had no obligation to follow her orders. His voice rose into a furious shout as he demanded answers from the princess. He was human, so he wondered about why had she turned the boy into this. The boy wondered if the demons intended to extract information about humanity or the heroes from him. The princess remained silent, offering no response. Undeterred, the boy continued and was mocking her efforts, telling her that if that was their goal, they had chosen the wrong person to bring here. Without hesitation, he launched himself forward, preparing to strike. If he was going to be used by the Mastro, he would rather die again than be their pawn. The second woman, unfazed by his defiance, stepped forward and swiftly countered. Without giving him a chance to react, she delivered a powerful kick to his abdomen, followed by another to his face. The impact sent him reeling before she struck him once more, sending him crashing to the ground. As he struggled to get up, she leaped into the air, aiming another devastating attack at him. Mocking his feeble resistance, she declared that someone as weak as him had no right to act arrogant. Even if this was merely a vessel, it was humiliating that a pathetic weakling of a human like him could be associated with the demon clan. Her words ignited something inside the boy, and suddenly, a fury surged through his veins as he roared in defiance, asking the lady about who was she calling weak. A blue aura surrounded the boy. With incredible force, he struck the lady guard directly in the abdomen, sending her hurtling backward. She crashed hard into the wall behind the princess, and shock rippled through the room as both the princess and her subordinate stared in disbelief. Even the boy was stunned by what had just happened. This unknown power was completely mysterious to him. The guard lady's mind raced as she realized that the boy had the power of the demon clan. The princess, equally stunned, was unable to process the scene she had just witnessed. The strength of the demon clan was directly linked to the power of the soul, so how was a mere human capable of wielding it? Before she could dwell on the thought, she saw that an overwhelming aura erupted from the body of the boy, and a lot of blue energy surged through him like a force he had never experienced before. He could feel the raw power coursing through his entire being. For the first time, the princess's composed expression faltered. Realizing the danger, she wasted no time. Moving swiftly, she unleashed her own power, forcefully bringing him down. Before he could react, She closed the distance, pinning him to the ground. In one fluid motion, she straddled him, keeping him firmly in place while sitting on top of him. The princess tightened her grip around the boy's throat, her fingers pressing firmly against his skin. As she did, she began extracting the demonic energy that had surged within him. He struggled, trying to move, but his body refused to respond. It was as if he had been completely paralyzed. His gaze locked onto the princess as thoughts raced through his mind. Meanwhile, the princess realized that the boy was showing no demonic energy waves which are coming from him. Yet, what had just happened was undeniably something beyond human. Before the boy could make sense of any of it, the princess suddenly hesitated, and a strange realization flickered in her expression. Without warning, she began removing her clothing, and the boy, along with you guys, are having their eyes widened in shock. What was the princess actually trying to do and achieve? But before the boy could voice his confusion, the princess pulled a sheet over both of them, covering their bodies together. Meanwhile, outside the room, a thin, eerie creature crept toward the princess's chamber. It moved silently, its single, large eye glowing faintly in the dim light. As it peered inside, it caught a glimpse of the princess entangled with someone. But before the creature could react, the second woman swiftly intercepted it. Without hesitation, she struck it down, pinning it under her foot. In a single motion, she split it into two, eliminating the threat instantly. Inside, the warrior lay frozen beneath the princess, his mind spiraling in disbelief. She was completely bare, her form pressed against him and curves having insane proportions. His breath caught as he found himself captivated by her beauty, as he wondered if the demon clan women truly this breathtaking and wonderful. She was unlike any woman he had ever seen, and it was beyond human perfection. Shaking his head, he quickly turned his gaze away, forcing himself to regain control of his thoughts. The boy was not able to believe on what he was even thinking. He was a human who killed Mastro, and she was a Mastro to begin with, but he wondered about what exactly she was trying to do. Was this some kind of honeypot trap, or perhaps a new form of torture? Did she intend to drain him completely out of his white juice until nothing remained? Before he could come up with an answer, the princess suddenly leaned forward, bringing her face dangerously close to his. The boy's heart started pounding loudly as he realized what was about to happen. As both of their lips started getting closer, the boy wondered if his first kiss really going to be stolen at death's door, and by a demon no less. But before anything could happen, his senses snapped back into focus as he was jerked awake, his body tensing as he realized something was on his face. His eyes darted downward, only to find the thin creature's lifeless body resting atop him. A sudden jolt of shock shot through him as he instinctively sprang upright, his breath coming fast and uneven. The princess observed the lifeless creature and calmly explained that it was the Eye of Mandala, a reconnaissance entity. Hearing this, the warrior's expression tensed. Reconnaissance? That meant this place was being monitored. The second woman elaborated, mentioning that while they had managed to eliminate some, a few had still escaped. It was clear that someone was deeply concerned about Shura's fate and was keeping a close watch. At the mention of that name, the princess's gaze darkened. Shura, she revealed, was the original owner of this body, and her fiancé. The warrior flinched at the revelation, momentarily taken aback. The princess continued, explaining that they were supposed to be married that very day, but before the ceremony could take place, Shura had vanished. By the time she finally found him, he was already dead. But the circumstances surrounding his death were a mystery. Why had he been there? Who had killed him? She had no answers. However, there was one thing she was certain of. The wounds on his body were not inflicted by humans. The warrior processed her words carefully. Not humans? Then was it a Mostro? Could this be the result of internal conflict within their ranks? The princess elaborated further that among the demon clan, merit was everything. Even royalty was no exception. Strength dictated status, and those who failed to keep up were left behind. Shura had been the strongest warrior of the demon clan, and his death meant that she would immediately become a target for those seeking to rise in power. To conceal his death, the princess had been left with no choice. A living soul had to be merged with his body. A realization dawned upon the warrior that everything that had happened to him was not for blackmailing the human military. He voiced his thoughts aloud, and the princess confirmed it by saying that after all, the military he had always trusted had already abandoned the boy, thinking that he was weak and pathetic. Hearing this, the boy was in deep shock, wondering if no one came for his rescue. The second woman reinforced the statement, dismissing him as nothing more than a lowly soldier, and he was picked because there were no other survivors on the battlefield, leaving the princess with no choice but to select him. A bitter anger simmered within the boy as he knew that he had risked his life fighting for humanity, and yet, in the end, he was nothing more than a disposable pawn to them. The princess, unfazed, offered him a final choice, asking him if he would cooperate with them, or would he die once again. After the explanation was done, the princess handed the boy a smart tab, its screen glowing faintly. As he took it, uncertainty filled his expression. The new Shura questioned its purpose, but before he could receive an answer, a video began playing. The scene depicted a grand military ceremony where a high-ranking officer stood before a gathering of heroes and officials. With a commanding presence, he addressed the crowd, announcing their victory over the Mostro. The battle had been won, ensuring the safety of countless civilians and preserving their homes. In recognition of exceptional leadership during the operation, Captain Kanda was being awarded the first-class medal. As the crowd erupted in applause, Kanda stepped forward, his demeanor composed yet proud. The officer presented him with the prestigious award, solidifying his status as a celebrated hero. The two exchanged a firm salute, marking the moment with a sense of honor and duty. Kanda's teammates watched with pride, their expressions filled with admiration for their leader's accomplishments. Amid the celebration, a woman and her young child emerged from the crowd. They were the same civilians that the boy had saved during the battle, but the child already saw the leader and was barely able to contain his excitement as he ran toward Kanda, holding a bouquet of flowers. With eyes full of admiration, he extended the flowers as a token of gratitude, expressing deep appreciation for Kanda's bravery. The boy's excitement spilled over as he declared his own dream, a desire to grow strong and fight against the Mostro by becoming a hero, just like the hero standing before him. The warriors nearby chuckled at his enthusiasm, finding amusement in his determination. Some reminded him that he was still too young and that such responsibilities were meant for adults. The child, visibly frustrated by their words, insisted on his strength, unwilling to accept their dismissal. Laughter rippled through the crowd, but Kanda lifted the child into his arms, addressing everyone with a speech filled with conviction. He acknowledged the trust the people had placed in the heroes, emphasizing that defeating the Mostro and protecting humanity was both a responsibility and an honor. However, he reminded them that choosing this path meant accepting sacrifice. Those who embraced the role of a hero had to engrave that truth into their hearts. He spoke of the reality of war, defining heroes as weapons, shields, and the final line of defense. He made it clear that faltering before the enemy, fearing death, or abandoning those who could not fight were unforgivable acts, equivalent to murder. His voice carried unwavering resolve as he condemned traitors, declaring that betrayal would never be forgiven. His words ignited a surge of passion within the crowd. Voices rose in unison, chanting their agreement with intense fervor. The declaration rang loud. Traitors were disgraceful and would never be forgiven. As the warrior watched the scene unfold on the smart tab's screen, a new notification abruptly interrupted the broadcast. A bounty notice appeared, flashing boldly across the display. The military had declared the boy, who was a former hero, as a fugitive, marking him as a wanted criminal. His breath caught as he stared at the image on the notice. It was his own previous face. A storm of anger and betrayal swelled within him. The very people he had once fought for had not only abandoned him, they had branded him an enemy. The princess regarded him with a cold yet knowing expression. She made it clear. He didn't have to cooperate with them, but if he refused, no one would thank him in the human world too, and his life would forever be branded with the mark of a traitor, and he would die without ever having the chance to set things right. The princess asked him if it wasn't frustrating to be condemned like this, without a way to fight back. Her words struck deep inside the boy. Of course it was frustrating. Heck, it was beyond frustrating. The boy's thoughts spiraled into anger as he wondered about why his family had to suffer for something they never did. Why were the people who spread these lies still living their lives without consequence? He couldn't allow it to end like this, and for that, he would survive no matter what it took, and one day, he would get his revenge. His grip on the smart tab tightened as his gaze burned with rage. Staring at the image of Kanda, he seethed with hatred. Everything Kanda had done to him, he would return it tenfold and make his revenge a satisfying one. With a sudden outburst, he hurled the tab to the ground, shattering it into pieces. The princess observed his reaction with satisfaction before leading him away. They soon arrived at a vast open chamber where a massive black dragon lay in deep slumber before them. The sight of the beast made Shura's pulse quicken. He wondered if the dragon was the demon clan's ride. Before he could fully process it, the dragon's eyes snapped open. With a deafening roar, it bared its fangs at him, radiating raw hostility. Before the situation could escalate, the princess activated her power. A powerful aura surrounded her as she exerted her will, bringing the dragon under her control in an instant. She explained that this beast had once been Shura's companion, and while his body belonged to Shura, the boy was still having a soul of a human, which was why the dragon reacted so violently. To counter this, she handed him a ring, a finely crafted artifact that pulsed with faint purple energy. This was Inferon, and by wearing it, the boy's human scent would be masked, preventing magical creatures from detecting his true identity. As he examined the ring, the second woman approached, carrying a thick stack of papers. She placed them in his hands, informing him that these contained detailed records about Shura. He was expected to learn everything before they reached the demon palace. The boy's irritation flared as he flipped through the sheer volume of information. How many days did they expect him to take to memorize all of this? But the princess' response was cold and indifferent as she told him that she didn't care, and the princess was watching the exchange and gave him a final warning that, if he didn't want to memorize it, he didn't have to. But if he made even the slightest mistake in anything at the demonic palace, she would kill him. A chill ran down his spine. The weight of her words was absolute, and for the first time, fear crept into his expression. The scene shifted as the three of them soared through the sky, riding atop the massive black dragon. Shura gazed down at the vast landscape stretching beneath them, his mind struggling to comprehend what he was seeing. Was this the world inside the gate? His eyes scanned the land below, where countless Mastro thrived. But what struck him most was their behavior. Instead of the mindless savagery he had always imagined, they appeared content. Groups of them gathered together, eating, drinking, and laughing, immersed in celebration and leisure. The sight unsettled him. He had always believed the Mostro to be a barbaric race, creatures that existed only to destroy. But was this the kind of life they actually led? The princess, as if sensing his thoughts, remarked that the world he had come from wasn't much different. She assured him that he would get used to it quickly. Her words irritated him. He disagreed instantly. Their worlds couldn't be the same. Humans had morals, laws, and a sense of unity, living by helping one another. The Mostro, on the other hand, knew only violence, murder, and theft. He pointed out that much of what they possessed had been stolen from humans. The second woman, unfazed by his argument, dismissed his concerns. To her, these were simply spoils of war, a natural consequence of conflict. If he had a problem with it, he was free to take it back by force. Frustration welled up inside him. In the end, thieves could only justify their actions with the logic of a thief. Before the conversation could continue, the princess's expression shifted slightly, her gaze sharpening as she took notice of something ahead. A massive swarm of insect-like creatures was approaching them at high speed. Shura was tensed at the sight, as their numbers were overwhelming. Without hesitation, the princess activated her power, forming a protective barrier around them. A translucent shield enveloped their surroundings, keeping the creatures at bay. Curiosity and concern mixed in Shura's voice, as he asked what those creatures were and why there were so many of them. The princess identified them as horseflies, creatures born in the abyss. Their bites inflicted a pain that lasted for days, making them one of the more troublesome hazards of this world. To avoid them, the dragon lowered its altitude, steering clear of the swarm. As they distanced themselves from the insects, an even more unpleasant sensation crept in. A thick, revolting stench filled the air. Shura recoiled at the overwhelming odor, his stomach twisting in discomfort. The princess calmly explained that it was miasma. Beneath them was a stretched and vast dark sea, its waters swirling with an ominous energy. Unlike any ocean he had ever seen, this one pulsed with dark energy, its very presence radiating an eerie, unnatural force. Within its depths, countless ferocious creatures lurked. Vicious, monstrous fish swam through the blackened waters, endlessly tearing into one another, locked in an eternal cycle of predator and prey. Shura's eyes widened as he took in the sight, unable to hide his shock. The princess, noticing his reaction, explained the harsh reality of their world. She referred to this place as the Abyss, a region where the sea of the underworld met this world. The laws he spoke of, the human concepts of morality and order, held no meaning here. Instead, they followed a single rule: the strong devour the weak. The very waters of the abyss were toxic, brimming with lethal energy that poisoned both the air and the land. There was no room for the weak here. Even survival itself was a privilege granted only to those who possessed the strength to claim it. She further revealed that, unlike humans, who could plow fields, cultivate crops, or raise livestock, the demon clan lacked the resources for such luxuries. They had no choice but to steal. Life belonged to the strong, and death was the fate of the weak. This was the only law that governed the demon clan. Her words lingered in his mind, stirring buried memories. Long ago, humanity had attempted to invade the other world, but each attempt had ended in disaster. Every soldier who ventured beyond the gate perished from poisoning. No one had ever understood the cause, but now Shura wondered if this toxic sea was the reason behind it. His gaze flickered toward the princess as he realized that, if he was going to escape, now was the perfect chance. His mind raced with possibilities, but as quickly as the thought came, he dismissed it. He didn't have enough information. It was too dangerous to act recklessly. Even if he returned now, there was no guarantee anyone would believe him. The military would never accept his words, and worst of all, if Kanda got to him first, he would be killed again. Lost in thought, he barely noticed the princess observing him closely. Her piercing gaze settled on him as she questioned about what was on his mind. Forcing himself to remain composed, he quickly brushed off her concerns, claiming it was nothing. The princess didn't press further. Instead, she shifted her focus ahead, announcing that they were approaching the center of the abyss. She warned the boy to hold on tightly. With that, the dragon surged forward, its speed increasing as they descended deeper into the unknown. As the dragon surged forward at an incredible speed, a deep sense of fear took hold of Shura. The sheer velocity of their descent made his stomach churn, and despite his best efforts, he couldn't contain his panic. A terrified scream ripped from his throat as the ground rushed toward them. The landing was sudden and forceful. As soon as the dragon touched the ground, his body was flung forward, sending him crashing onto the hard earth. The impact left him disoriented. His vision blurred, and a wave of nausea overtook him. His body trembled as he struggled to process his surroundings. Unable to hold it back, he began vomiting, his dizziness worsening. His mind drifted into incoherent thoughts as he turned toward the princess, his vision still hazy. In his dazed state, he mistook her for his grandmother, mumbling nonsense as if she had come to take him home. The moment was short-lived, as a sharp slap struck his face, snapping him back to reality. The force of the hit sent him sprawling across the ground. Blinking rapidly, he finally regained enough clarity to take in his surroundings. Before him stood the demon clan's palace, a massive, ominous structure that radiated an overwhelming aura of power. The presence of several other dragons around the area made it clear that this was no ordinary place. The princess observed the scene and remarked that it seemed the other demon generals had arrived. The lady guard, standing beside her, confirmed her suspicion. She explained that the 3 demon generals were highly ambitious, each possessing enough strength to challenge the princess for the throne. It was likely that they were the ones who had released Mandala's eye, keeping a close watch on the situation. Shifting her attention, the princess turned to Shura, asking whether he had studied the documents she had given him earlier. He remained silent, his eyes darting around as if searching for an escape. His hesitation did not go unnoticed. Annoyance flared in the lady guard's eyes as she raised her voice, demanding an answer. Had he seriously not memorized the information? Without waiting for a response, she unsheathed her knife, her voice filled with cold warning that deceiving the Demon King was a grave crime. If he showed even the slightest weakness, failing to protect the princess, she would personally kill him first. His frustration finally boiled over. Glaring at her, he snapped back, reminding her that they were supposed to be allies. If she had so little trust in him, she should just kill him now and be done with it. The princess, however, simply observed the exchange before calmly advising him to be careful. A flicker of embarrassment crossed his face. Straightening himself, he took a deep breath and finally spoke. They didn't know this, but within the military, he had been regarded as the strongest strategist, despite lacking any special abilities. His role had always been to analyze enemies as quickly as possible, identifying their weaknesses and turning the tide of battle. To him, learning the traits of the Mastro was effortless. He had already memorized all the information about the demon clan. With a confident grin, he strode forward, assuring them to leave everything to him. Just as he spoke, the massive gates of the palace swung open. Inside, countless demons stood waiting. Every single one of them was staring at him. A wave of unease settled over him as he felt the weight of their piercing gazes. Despite his earlier confidence, a nervous tension crept into his body. The princess took the lead, signaling for them to move forward. Without hesitation, the 3 of them began walking through the grand entrance of the demon clan's palace. As they proceeded, the gathering of demons observed them intently. Murmurs spread throughout the hall, whispers of speculation and intrigue filling the air. Many of them eyed Shura with curiosity and doubt. To them, he was Shura, the god of death. However, his appearance seemed too ordinary. Was he really as dangerous as the legends claimed? Some among them viewed this as an opportunity. If they could defeat him, they could claim the princess for themselves. A sense of unease settled in Shura's gut. The sheer intensity of their stares was suffocating, but before he could react, a sudden attack was launched. One of the demons leaped forward at incredible speed, aiming directly at them. The lady guard instantly moved to intercept, stepping in front to shield them. However, the attacker overpowered her, sending her flying to the side with a forceful strike. Before the situation could escalate further, the princess swiftly intervened. Channeling her power, she forced the attacker back. With lightning-fast reflexes, she cracked her whip, delivering multiple devastating blows. The sheer force of her attack sent the aggressor retreating, leaving him momentarily stunned. Her voice carried an unmistakable authority as she demanded to know his intentions. As the dust settled, the identity of the attacker was revealed. His name was Marin, and rather than showing remorse, he remained completely unfazed. Casually brushing himself off, he made light of the situation, claiming that he was merely stretching his body since his back had been hurting. Another voice soon joined the conversation. A female demon named Mami stepped forward, commenting in a teasing tone. She hinted that since the princess was newly married, she must be preoccupied with many responsibilities. However, before the princess could respond, yet another demon spoke. This time, it was Mari, whose demeanor was far colder and more calculated. Unlike the others, his focus was entirely on Shura. Rumors had spread that Shura's whereabouts had been unknown for quite some time. With a piercing gaze, Mari demanded an answer. Had the princess finally found him? Mari continued speaking, his tone sharp with suspicion. On such an important day, how could Shura have gone missing? What exactly was going on? Mami, smirking slightly, added to the tension that the princess was far too generous. If it had been her, she would have torn him apart for such a betrayal. Maran joined in, his words laced with amusement, as he wondered if Shura had abandoned his fiancée to seek out another woman. The princess remained outwardly composed, but internally, her thoughts raced. The news of Shura's disappearance had already spread. If someone here had been responsible for his death, they were still hesitating to reveal it. That meant they weren't certain that he was truly gone. They were probing, waiting for confirmation before making a move. Meanwhile, murmurs spread through the gathered demons. Many openly declared that the princess should forget about such an unfaithful man and marry them instead. The atmosphere grew more intense as Maran suddenly issued a challenge. He declared a duel, setting the terms clearly. Whoever won would claim the princess. Excitement erupted among the surrounding demons. A battle for the princess's hand was something they all wanted to witness. The princess, however, immediately saw through their plan. They were deliberately provoking Shura. They wanted him to act, to expose himself. Before she could intervene, the lady guard beside her whispered a warning. Something felt off. Their eyes turned to Shura. His entire body was trembling. His hands clenched tightly, but no matter how hard he tried to suppress it, his body continued to shake uncontrollably. Inside his mind, panic surged. His heart pounded violently, an unfamiliar terror gripping him. It was fear, and it was a sensation he had never experienced before. He had fought countless battles, standing on the brink of death more times than he could count. Yet not once had he felt this kind of fear. Why now? Why here? It was as if he had become a lone sheep wandering into a pack of wolves. This fear was far beyond the fear of death. It was the instinctual terror of being hunted. The princess observed Shura carefully, her mind analyzing the situation. She knew that something was off, and that someone was using an illusion against him. If this had been the real Shura, such a minor magical disturbance would have meant nothing. But his soul was human, and at this rate, the pressure would crush him completely. However, if she interfered now, she would expose the truth, that this was not the real Shura. She hesitated and wondered about what she should do. Meanwhile, Shura struggled to breathe. A suffocating pressure weighed down on his chest, making every breath a painful struggle. It felt as if his heart was being squeezed, his body on the verge of bursting apart. Moran, watching his reaction, stepped closer, demanding that he say something. But Shura remained silent, unable to speak. Moran's irritation grew, his patience wearing thin. The lack of response only angered him further. Losing his temper, he prepared to strike, raising his arm for an attack. At that moment, the princess acted. She delivered a powerful kick, sending Shura crashing to the ground. The unexpected move stunned the gathered demons, leaving them speechless. She coldly declared that a man who did not cherish her was not worth having. If he did not clear up the misunderstanding right now, she would cancel their engagement on the spot. The impact from her kick snapped him out of the illusion's grip. As he blinked, his vision cleared, and he realized that his body was functioning again. The unbearable suffocation had vanished. He could finally breathe normally. Moran, watching with amusement, stepped forward. Mocking him, he laughed loudly, ridiculing the so-called god of death, a warrior who couldn't even defeat a woman. The princess clearly had terrible taste in men. Shura, instead of reacting with anger, grinned. He had suspected something was off, and now he knew what it was. It was Marin's mouth. Marin's laughter faltered, his expression darkening as rage boiled within him. Then, without warning, Shura struck the demon. With deadly precision, he drove his fist directly into Moran's groin. A crushing blow to his small eggs, a devastating and merciless strike. As Moran collapsed in agony, Shura's voice rang out, filled with mocking defiance. He dared to insult his woman? The entire hall fell silent for a moment, and no one reacted. Then, the princess and the lady guard stared in shock, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Even Mommy, watching the scene unfold, burst into laughter. With a smirk, she admitted that she was glad she wasn't a man, because just witnessing the attack was painful enough. Mari, also laughing, commented on Shura's brutality, thinking that the god of death was indeed terrifying. Meanwhile, Marin lay on the ground, his body trembling from the sheer agony. The surrounding demons muttered among themselves. With a single attack, he had completely subdued one of the demon generals. Some silently thanked their luck, as they were glad they hadn't picked a fight with him. But Moran's fury did not fade. Through sheer determination, he forced himself to stand, rage burning in his eyes. He decided that he would kill him. But before he could make a move, a portal suddenly opened at the center of the hall. All eyes turned toward it. A hush fell over the room as the demons immediately recognized what was happening. Their voices rose in awe and anticipation as the Demon King had arrived. As soon as the Demon King arrived, the gathered demons bowed in respect, their heads lowered in reverence. However, Moran remained standing, refusing to acknowledge the presence of their ruler. The princess, noticing his defiance, immediately reprimanded him. Was he planning to disrespect the Demon King? Her sharp words made Moran tense for a moment. Though he clearly resented the command, he ultimately had no choice. Gritting his teeth, he reluctantly lowered his head, bowing like the others. Meanwhile, Shura's mind raced. This was the leader of the demon clan. According to military records, the Demon King was the only SSSS-level Mostro ever identified. His strength and influence were unmatched. His anticipation grew as the portal pulsed with energy, revealing the figure of the Demon King. And then a capybara stepped out. Shura's entire body froze in shock. His mind struggled to process what he was seeing. Was this some kind of joke? Before he could react, a familiar voice echoed in his mind. The voice belonged to Princess Maya. His eyes widened. But something was off. No one else seemed to hear her. Realization dawned on him. The princess was speaking to him through telepathy. She explained the truth behind the Demon King's presence. The Demon King had grown old and no longer involved himself in active leadership. Instead, he had entrusted all responsibilities to the 4 demon generals. It was rare for him to even appear. Most of the time, he communicated through something else, like the capybara before them. Even the real Shura had never met him in person. For now, Maya warned, Shura needed to stay silent and hidden. As Shura processed this information, the Demon King's voice boomed through the capybara, addressing the gathered demons. He announced that there was an important discussion to be held today. The 4-clan meeting was about to take place. However, this time, a new representative would be chosen to join the council. A wave of excitement spread through the crowd. Many demons saw this as an opportunity, a chance for greater power and influence. But while the others reacted with interest, Shura remained confused. He had no idea what the Demon King was talking about. Sensing his confusion, the princess continued speaking through telepathy, providing him with critical information. The Demon Clan, Winged Clan, Beast Clan, and Armored Clan held a grand meeting every 5 years. During these gatherings, major issues were discussed: conflicts, peace treaties, land divisions, and other matters that shaped the fate of their world. Each clan's most authoritative figures attended, ensuring that their people's interests were represented. Until now, the Demon King himself had always participated. But this time, someone new would be chosen. A realization hit Shura like a bolt of lightning. Whoever was selected as the new representative had the potential to one day ascend to the throne, to become the next Demon King. Maran stepped forward, his confidence unshaken. He boldly declared that among the 4 demon generals, he was the strongest, commanding the largest number of subordinates and possessing the greatest raw power. In his eyes, there was no better candidate for the role. The princess silently assessed his claim. There was no denying that Maran's strength was unmatched among the generals. However, his reckless personality and complete lack of concern for others made him unfit for leadership. Marie, observing the situation, scoffed at Maran's arrogance. This wasn't about brute strength. It was about intelligence, something Maran clearly lacked. The princess knew that Mari's power was weaker than Maran's, but his intelligence, cunning, and strategic mind made him the most dangerous of the 4. Before the tension could escalate further, the lady guard, standing beside the princess, spoke up. If the most noble individual had to attend the 4-clan meeting, then it should be Princess Maya, the Demon King's daughter. The princess remained outwardly composed, but internally understood the problem. Despite being the Demon King's daughter, her status as a woman placed her at a disadvantage. In the Demon Clan, women were considered inferior, making her succession nearly impossible. Maran smirked at the suggestion, his tone dripping with mockery. Instead of worrying about political matters, she should focus on learning how to please a man, so her husband wouldn't abandon her. Women had no place in leadership. Before he could laugh, a snake lunged at him from the shadows. Its fangs gleamed as it struck, but before it could sink its teeth into his flesh, Maran reacted instantly, unleashing a devastating counterattack that obliterated the creature. The attack, however, hadn't been random. The one who had summoned the snake was Mami. Watching Maran recover from the attack, she grinned mischievously. With a teasing tone, She reminded him that underestimating women could be fatal, because if a woman were to kill him, it would be even more humiliating. The princess observed Mami carefully. Unlike most women in the demon clan, Mami understood how to use her femininity as a weapon, manipulating others to gain an advantage. Her presence alone commanded attention, and those gathered in the hall couldn't take their eyes off her. Marin turned toward her, his fury barely contained. Did she intend to fight him? Mami, feigning innocence, dismissed the idea. She had no intention of engaging in battle. She simply believed that Marin was already injured, and if he continued pushing himself, he might lose his strength as a man altogether. The thinly veiled mockery sent a fresh wave of rage through Maran. Before he could retaliate, Mari interjected. To him, it didn't matter whether one was a man or a woman. In the demon clan, power was everything. He would support whoever proved to be the strongest. His words immediately stirred excitement among the gathered demons. For years, it had been assumed that the next representative would be chosen from the 4 demon generals. But now, things had changed. A new possibility had emerged. Anyone strong enough could become the demon clan's representative. Fueled by ambition, the gathered demons turned on Maran, seeing him as their first obstacle. Without hesitation, they launched an all-out attack. Maran, despite his injuries, stood his ground, engaging each opponent one by one. Meanwhile, Shura carefully observed Mari's expression. Mari had skillfully manipulated the situation, turning Maran into a common enemy. This was expected from someone as calculating as him. Mari, too, was analyzing the battlefield. His strategy was clear. Once Maran and Mami had weakened themselves, he would strike all at once, ensuring his victory. Shura recognized the tactic immediately. This was a classic example of waiting to reap the benefits. In interspecies negotiations, strength was the ultimate trump card. But the demon clan was too focused on infighting, failing to realize that it would only lead to their own destruction. As the battle continued, Mami suddenly made her move. Her knife flashed in the dim light as she lunged toward Maran, aiming for a decisive strike. But before her attack could land, the princess intervened. In an instant, she blocked Mami's blade with her own, standing directly in front of Marin. As the battle escalated, Mami launched an attack, sending her snake slithering toward the princess with deadly precision. The princess, unfazed, reacted instantly. With a swift motion, she cracked her whip, lashing out at the incoming serpent. The 2 attacks collided midair, the snake and the whip intertwining, locking them in a tense struggle. Mami, watching with amusement, let out a playful laugh. Feigning innocence, she questioned the princess's decision. She had been protecting her, so why was the princess turning against her? Women should support one another, yet the princess had chosen to side with the men. It was a shameful betrayal. The princess, however, remained firm. She declared that she would take no sides in this senseless battle. At a time like this, killing each other was nothing more than a pitiful waste. Shura silently observed the exchange. At least the princess had some sense, but the other demons were too consumed by their own ambitions to listen to reason. To them, personal gain mattered above all else. Before the situation could settle, Marin suddenly drew his sword. Without hesitation, he launched himself forward, aiming to strike down both the princess and Mami in a single attack. Shura instantly shouted for them to watch out, but Marin was already midair. His blade swung down with brutal force, forcing both women to dodge in opposite directions as they were sent tumbling across the ground. Mari, watching the reckless attack, let out an amused chuckle. Shaking his head, he mocked Maran for taking things too far. After all, Maran had just dared to lay his hands on Mami's precious snake. Meanwhile, Mami knelt beside her injured serpent, gently stroking its scaled body. Her voice turned cold as she glared at Maran, warning him in a deadly tone. If anything happened to her beloved pet, she would never forgive him. Moran let out a mocking laugh, his arrogance radiating through the room. It wasn't his fault others were weak. They had no one to blame but themselves. None of these so-called warriors were anything special. If anyone still wanted to die, they were welcome to step forward. Silence settled over the gathered demons. They muttered amongst themselves, still shaken by the battle. Maran's combat prowess was undeniable. In an instant, he had overpowered multiple challengers, including the princess and Mami. With the strongest warriors already defeated, there was nothing more they could do. One by one, they reluctantly backed off. A triumphant smirk spread across Moran's face as he turned toward the capybara, the vessel of the Demon King's voice. With unwavering confidence, he addressed his ruler. Surely, the Demon King had witnessed his strength. Since no one had any objections, there was only one logical conclusion. He should be the one chosen for the four-clan conference. No one dared to argue against him. A moment later, the Demon King spoke. His decision was made. Moran would be the representative. However, just as the matter seemed settled, a voice interrupted. Shura stepped forward. He challenged the decision, his words cutting through the tension in the room. The princess's eyes widened in shock. Moran, too, froze mid-celebration, his expression darkening. The room fell into stunned silence. Even Mari, ever amused by the unfolding chaos, turned toward Shura with an intrigued smirk. Was he interested in the conference as well? The princess's so-called man was proving to be more than just a playful distraction. He had ambition. The princess's second-in-command stared at him in disbelief. Had he lost his mind? Did he really believe he could take on Moran? Within Shura's mind, the princess's voice echoed through telepathy. She urged him to stop, warning that this was a battle he could not win. But Shura stood firm. He understood exactly what he was doing. Moran, seeing this as a chance for vengeance, grinned viciously. He still hadn't settled the score. Without hesitation, he lunged forward, his sword cutting through the air as he charged toward Shura. In his mind, there was only one outcome. He would kill Shura and claim the princess as his own. But as he closed in, Shura raised a hand. With a calm voice, he declared, he wasn't going to fight. Moran's fury exploded. His rage burned hotter than before. But before he could strike, Shura leaned in and whispered something into his ear. The moment the words left his lips, Moran's expression shifted instantly. His anger vanished, replaced by a look of pure shock. Shura simply smirked, his confidence unwavering. Moran's hands trembled. A storm of emotions swirled within him. The rage was still there, but now hesitation had settled in as well. A long moment passed before he finally turned back toward the Demon King. His voice, now unexpectedly composed, carried through the hall. He acknowledged that Mami and Shura had been right. He had been reckless, blinded by his own arrogance. He never should have forced a battle. After careful thought, he made a new suggestion. Instead of him, the princess should be the one to represent the demon clan at the four-clan conference. Moran stepped forward once more, his voice carrying an unexpected shift in tone. He declared that he had no objections to Princess Maya, the Demon King's daughter, attending the four-clan conference in his place. The gathered demons stared in shock, unable to process what they had just heard. Mari, ever skeptical, immediately questioned his motives. What exactly was he trying to do? But Moran remained firm and unwavering. Hadn't they heard him the first time? He meant every word he had said. Unlike the others, who only focused on what was right in front of them, he could see the bigger picture. Even if he participated in the tournament, it would ultimately be meaningless. His words caused an uproar among the assembled demons. Many voiced their concerns, arguing that after suffering so many injuries, their tribe would be mocked by the other 3 clans. After all, he had fought the hardest among them. Yet before their murmurs could spread further, Moran's fury erupted. He commanded them to remain silent, his presence alone forcing them into submission. The hall fell into an uneasy stillness. The Demon King finally spoke. Moran had relinquished his right and officially recommended Maya in his place. Now, the question remained, did anyone oppose this decision? Moran's glare hardened. He made his stance clear. Anyone who dared to object would be considered his enemy. The weight of his words left the hall in absolute silence. Even Mari, despite his usual smugness, relented, stating that if Maran had made his choice, he had no objections. With no further resistance, the rest of the demons slowly fell in line, agreeing to Moran's decision. The Demon King gave his final decree. At the next 4-clan tournament, Maya would represent the demon tribe. Turning to her, he issued a stern command. She was not to betray their expectations. She was to win for the demon tribe's interests. Maya bowed in acknowledgement, accepting her duty without hesitation. With that, the meeting came to an end. The assembled demons began to disperse, leaving one by one. Moran, too, prepared to depart, mounting his dragon to take his leave. However, before he left, he cast one final glare toward Shura. His burning rage was evident, yet he held his tongue, choosing instead to leave without a word. As soon as Moran departed, the princess's second-in-command immediately turned to Shura, suspicion evident in her eyes. She demanded to know what he had done earlier. Shura, offering a casual smile, insisted that he had done nothing at all. But the woman was not convinced. She pressed further, reminding him that Maran was not someone who could be reasoned with. Changing his mind was no simple feat. Frustration creeping into her voice, she finally snapped, "Just answer the question." Shura hesitated for a moment, his gaze briefly shifting toward the princess before looking away, clearly embarrassed. Finally, he admitted that he hadn't done anything particularly significant. A flashback revealed what had actually transpired. During their brief exchange, Shura had whispered something into Moran's ear, a statement so damning that it had immediately shaken him to his core. Shura had whispered the damning truth. If it became known that Moran had been selling Beast Tribe infants to the Wing Tribe for poison resistance experiments, his survival would be impossible. Moran had been instantly paralyzed with shock, the weight of the accusation leaving him speechless. Now, upon hearing this revelation, the princess's second-in-command's expression darkened. Moran had been selling Beast Tribe infants? Was that really true? The princess, too, was taken aback, so that was why Moran had given up his claim. But she had never even heard of such a thing before. Where exactly had Shura obtained this information? His response came with absolute confidence. He reminded them that his brain was his strongest asset. Within the military archives, high-level classified documents existed detailing critical information on the Mostro, files that only the upper echelons had access to. However, because Kanda frequently assigned low-ranking soldiers to menial tasks, he had once been given access to those files. That was when he had discovered the truth, and once he had seen something, he never forgot it. The documents had detailed Moran's crimes. Not only had he been selling infants from the Beast Tribe, but he had also shifted the blame onto the human military. As a result, the Beast Tribe had waged war against humanity, attempting to recover their stolen children. The conflict had led to massive casualties. The princess's second-in-command, hearing this, finally smiled in approval. Had Shura already planned ahead for this moment? Was that why he had memorized the meeting materials so easily? Shura smirked, taking pride in his abilities. He was far from incompetent. The princess, too, gave a rare smile of amusement. For once, he had proven to be useful. Shura, emboldened by the recognition, stood taller, his confidence unwavering. This was only the beginning. His true value had yet to be fully revealed. The princess, now intrigued, admitted that she looked forward to seeing what else he could do. Before the conversation could continue, Mari approached. With a knowing smirk, he remarked that it was only natural for Shura to be able to manipulate Maran so easily. He was impressed. Shura, observing Mari closely, spoke without hesitation. Maran was a brainless fool. His plan was simple. He would provoke Maran into fighting the other demon lords while standing back and reaping the benefits. The real mastermind, however, was Marie. Mari let out a low chuckle, acknowledging the statement. However, he had noticed something different about Shura today. The aura around him wasn't quite the same. Shura raised an eyebrow. What kind of aura? Mari's smirk widened as he delivered his answer. Fear. It was the scent a human carried when experiencing true fear. Before Shura can respond, the princess's companion steps forward, calling Mari's words rude. Mari simply laughs, unfazed by the accusation, and casually wonders if his sense of smell is failing him. The princess interjects, explaining that Shura has killed countless humans, so it wouldn't be surprising if the scent of their blood had soaked into his clothes. Accepting her reasoning, Mari chuckles and comments that the princess has not only found a strong husband, but also a valuable ally. With that, he turns and walks away. Once Mari is gone, the princess's companion turns to her, confused by his words. The princess clarifies that Mari is highly skilled in mental manipulation. He thrives on the fear and despair his prey experiences in their final moments. She then reveals that it was likely Mari who released the magical energy toward Shura earlier, hinting at his growing suspicion. Shura, unfazed, asks what she plans to do about it. As he ponders, a chilling sensation washes over him, the overwhelming pressure of fear, crushing his very bones. He acknowledges that her presence saved him this time, but he warns her that next time, she might not be able to withstand it. The princess issues a grave warning. Maran will surely target him now, and Mari will continue to probe. Neither she nor her companion can always protect him. If he truly wants to survive, he must gain the strength to convince everyone that he is the real Shura. Her companion, however, is skeptical. She bluntly states that Shura is too weak to even defeat an average demon. Annoyed, Shura snaps back, demanding to know who she's calling weak. Without hesitation, she points at him. The princess then offers a different perspective. His soul may be human, but his body belongs to Shura. Perhaps, she suggests, he can use that to his advantage. Then the three of them arrive at a new location, prompting Shura to ask where they are. The princess explains that this is the real Shura's armory. She reveals that Shura had a peculiar habit. He would collect the weapons of the enemies he killed as souvenirs. However, after slaying countless foes, he eventually ran out of space, leading him to create this special warehouse. With that, she opens the door. Inside, an overwhelming number of weapons are neatly stored. As Shura scans the vast collection, he is astonished. It truly befits the title of the Killing God. He wonders just how many lives were lost to amass such an arsenal. Moving forward, he examines the weapons one by one. A shield from the Gao tribe, a weapon from the Beast tribe, and even numerous military-grade guns. His attention then shifts to a set of fangs. Examining them closely, he realizes that they belong to the Winged tribe. Shaking his head, he mutters that collecting even fangs seems excessive, almost like a sickness. The princess then elaborates on Shura's immense strength. It wasn't just due to his raw power, there was another crucial factor. She gestures toward a specific corner of the armory. There, resting on a stand, is a sword radiating immense energy. She introduces it as Shura's weapon, Deverolf. At first glance, Shura remains unimpressed, stating that it doesn't seem particularly special. Before he can say anything further, the princess's companion angrily smacks him on the head, scolding him for his ignorance. With a serious expression, she explains the true significance of Deverolf. When it first appeared in the world, it sparked an unprecedented war across the demon realm. Maran, Mari, and Mami battled fiercely over it, suffering grave injuries in the process. Even the Demon King himself was unable to wield its power. In the end, the chaos only ended when Shura intervened, slaughtering countless demons who couldn't even lay a finger on the sword. Hearing this, Shura finally begins to grasp its importance, but still questions if it is truly as powerful as they claim. The princess confirms its terrifying nature. Deverolf is no ordinary weapon. It is a demon in itself, one that holds life within it. Any being struck by the sword has their life force absorbed, which in turn strengthens its wielder. The more it kills, the stronger it becomes. Even someone without magical power can use it to absorb the strength of demons. A realization dawns upon Shura. If he gathers enough magical energy, he can become the real Shura. No, he corrects himself. He will surpass Shura. The scene shifts to a training ground where Shura is engaged in battle against a group of the lowest-ranked magical beasts. Observing his struggle, the princess's companion expresses her disbelief. He can't even defeat creatures of such low rank. She questions whether he has any real battle experience at all. Shura, undeterred, looks at the beasts and scoffs, believing them to be weak. As one of the creatures lunges at him, he quickly draws his sword. However, Deverolf is far heavier than he anticipated, making it nearly impossible to lift. Struggling to wield the weapon, he finds himself unable to react in time. As the magical beast gets dangerously close, Shura panics, abandons the sword, and flees. Watching this unfold, the princess shakes her head. She had expected him to be weak, but not to this extent. Her companion agrees, mocking him for thinking he could surpass the real Shura when he can't even hold a weapon properly. To her, humanity is full of nothing but big talkers. The princess then explains the problem. While Shura's body may be that of the real Shura, he lacks the power that comes with it. Because of this, Deverolf refuses to recognize him as its master. However, doubt lingers in her mind. Had she misjudged him? Was this truly all there was to him? As she contemplates, another magical beast lunges at Shura. This time, he manages to dodge the attack, but instead of feeling threatened, the creature laughs at him, flashing its sharp teeth. Shura hesitates as he realizes that all the magical beasts are laughing at him, mocking his weakness. Before the situation escalates, the princess swiftly moves in. Using her whip, she strikes down the beasts one by one, eliminating them with ease. With the enemies defeated, Shura drops to the ground in exhaustion. Looking at him, the princess decides to end the training session, suggesting they call it a day. But Shura refuses to give up. He stands, insisting that he was merely careless and will do better next time. The princess warns him that if anyone sees bite marks from a low-ranked magical beast on his body, it will cause a major uproar. Only then does Shura realize that one of the creatures managed to leave a cut on his stomach. Annoyed, he grips Deverolf and complains that the sword is far too heavy. He asks if there's a way to make it lighter. The princess explains that a magical sword like Deverolf only acknowledges those who can make it stronger. If it deems its wielder worthless, it refuses to be used. Hearing this, Shura falls silent. Memories of his real world flood his mind. There, everyone viewed him as trash, an ordinary person with no special abilities. Even the strongest heroes saw the weak as nothing more than tools to clean up the remains of slain monsters. In their eyes, the weak had no value. Lost in thought, he finally turns to the princess and asks if she thinks he has no value. Caught off guard, she hesitates for a moment before giving a small smile. Instead of answering directly, she tells him to rest, reassuring him that even if he cannot use Deverolf, her companion will protect him. Shura's expression darkens. Furious, he yells, refusing to be protected by a woman. Without another word, he charges toward the magical beasts. The princess, shocked, calls out to him, demanding to know what he plans to do.